Hey, and welcome back to Lang Speed and Cycle. A few weeks ago I tried revealing my engine, transmission, and rear axle to everybody. And the engine was all ready to go, the transmission is all ready to go, but then it turns out my rear axle pretty much needed an entire rebuild. So the rear axle underneath the back of this car is a 1969 Chevelle 8.2 10 bolt with a 308 gear ratio, and I ended up having to rebuild the entire thing. So that's what we're doing in this episode. So grab your snacks and let's get after it. Okay. So the differential cover should be just held on with bolts finger tight right now, which they are. The last melon, last cover bolt. It's nice laying under a part of the car that isn't full of rust. All right, there we go. Hey, buddy. I'm working on the axle. 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 So, everything looks pretty good in here actually. The guy that I bought it from said that the whole rear differential was rebuilt. And maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, I'm not really sure. If I can get the axle to turn here. There is a ton of play in the spider gears. And you can see it right there. It's pretty much slop. So that's just slop that the spider gears would have in between each other, and eventually one hard burnout, and that would probably break. So could have welded it together, but I decided to do something else. Now what do we have here? Here we got the Yukon Duragrip Posi Traction differential. I got this from Quick Performance in Iowa, and this is what we're going to be putting in today. I can't wait to get this puppy in. Nice and shiny and new. So hopefully the old axle comes apart nice and smoothly and we can get the ring gear, and I got a new set of carrier bearings for it, and we'll have Posi, baby. First things first, we gotta get the spider gears out. Oh. Pushing the axle. There we go. No. There we go. So I got my Earthquake 3/8. It's the XT 20 volt, 85 bucks at Harbor Freight. Can't beat that. If I can get on these things. We'll see if it takes it off. I got my handy dandy ratchet if it doesn't. So when disassembling, there are gonna be carrier shims on each side next to each carrier bearing. It's good to remember which side is which and which amount of shims goes on each side. So actually I'm going to mark those right now. So we'll mark this one. How am I going to do that? R. Now let's keep zipping these things out. Will this get stuck? Nice. There we go. There's the bearing race. Bearing. Sweet! I love this little impact. Do that over there. And then, pull this guy out. There's a shim. Race. Left side. Strong side. Remember the type reference. Perfect. There we go. Put that right back where I found it. Clean all this up since I just made it dirty. Try and get the ring gear off of this thing and get it back together. You see, we got old and busted, new hotness. Old and busted, new hotness. Name that movie. So, next on the list of rebuilding this carrier is getting this ring gear off of this carrier. So, I think those are 9/16. Let's zip those off. Wow, that bearing is bad. Whoa. Ouchie. Whoa. That is so not good. How's the bottom look? Let's flip it over. See if I can do this one-handed. You know what they did? New. Reused. So that's definitely a brand new bearing. So I'm definitely happy we took this differential apart before something catastrophic happened. Now let's try and get the dang ring gear off. So I had to take a quick drink of beer because I saw on the ring gear 237, which is also the gear ratio. And when I bought this, the guy I bought it from said it was a 308. So 5 seconds of panic, and then counted the ring gear teeth, and then counted the pinion gear teeth, and this has 37, and the ring gear has 12. So 37 divided by 12 is 308. So I'm happy that it's definitely still 308, didn't change. I'm a screaming child. So we're gonna try massaging it off with this here rubber mallet. and I don't think it's doing anything. Might be on to this hammer. I really don't want to hit a piece of metal with a hammer, but the internet says so. So it is dropping. I'm not doing anything to the ring gear. It's actually a little wear on the ring gear, but it should be dropping. It is loose, actually. There, I think it dropped. So, pop these guys out. If I didn't mess up their threads. Nice broken adjustable wrench on hand. It's always useful. That one's tight, which is perfect. Check the threads. Make sure they're not boogered up. Perfect. There we go. So now what we're going to be doing is actually removing one of these bearings, because we're going to reuse the inner race to get the new bearings on. Now, I thought about using a seal installer for this, but as you can see, the bearing itself is recessed a little in there. So let me just... The inner race of the bearing is recessed a little bit on both sides of the differential. So we're going to want to use this inner race of the bearing on the new carrier and tap or press the new bearing on using the old race. Don't need this. You need this.
So I'm getting ready to heat up the ring gear and get it installed on the new carrier. And while I was working on the car last night, I noticed something. Pulled the axles out, and one thing that turns orange when it's mixed with water is rust. And if you can see in there, that's orange, watery, greasy rust. So that's not a good sign. And what's also interesting, you can see protruding out of the axle tube, those are called repair bearings. So typically on a solid axle tube, you have your wheel bearing and then your outer wheel seal or axle seal, and then you have your drum. But these axles have the repair bearings on each seal, or have the repair bearings on each side of the axle tube.
Those repair bearings were the exact reason those axles were so hard to push in and get the C-clips to drop out earlier in the video.
So I looked at the axles, and this is the left side. It's not in great shape. This actually should be replaced. And same with this one. That is really bad. You can actually see that the bearing had just eaten up that axle. I'm really hoping that we can get both of the axles into the carrier without any major issues, so that should be interesting. I hope it goes smooth, but I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Let's heat up the ring gear and get it on the carrier. I need to get one with the igniter on it. This is ridiculous. This thing is hot now. Yes! Come on, baby. Just start one. Come on, baby. There we go. Oh yeah, baby. She's on. Alright, so we got the ring gear all on, all torqued, good to go. And now, last night I measured both of the factory shims. That's what these are, factory shim spacers. And the right was at 238 thousandths and the left was at 246 thousandths. I'm going to remeasure both of them again. just to make sure it wasn't me just being tired and not being able to read micrometer. So we got 246 on the left, 240 on the right. That's what we'll start with. See if we need to make any adjustments. Now that's just for the backlash. I didn't mess with the pinion gear at all, so I'm not gonna. So next thing we need to do, this is the new pack of shims. There should be, here is each side's shim holder. There are really thick shims, really thin shims. And what we'll do is just sort of build these shims with the new stuff and try and get that in, because it's pretty much something like this, where got the bearing and we got our shims, and it pops on like that. So let's work on that. Yeah. 246. Okay, so we'll say this is 246 and this is 240. How was nap time? Oh, really?
This guy. The driver's side. You to work right this time? The only way I can do it. Oh. Sweet. So what we need to do now is put both bearing caps on, and then then see what the gear mesh looks like. Then we'll need to figure out if we need to go this way or this way. And I didn't take the pinion out, so we're not changing anything else there. We might just send it.
So one positive to rebuilding an entire axle is you get new parts. So here is the box of the new axle shafts and axle seals, axle bearings, and wheel studs. So let's get this dang thing opened up. Jeez. Wheel bearing, axle seal. Wheel bearing, axle seal. Wheel studs and C-clips. And now, the custom alloy quick performance axles. These will definitely handle a little bit more power than the stock axles, and then, you know, not have those bearing marks and stuff, the wear that the other axles had, so sweet deal. Let's get these unboxed and set aside before I damage them. Maybe we'll just leave them in here. That sounds like a good plan. So now that we got the old axle out, or old axle seal repair bearing, you can see the difference. So there's your axle seal and axle bearing, and this is that repair bearing. Way bigger, super annoying. So we get the axle bearing in right now. I got my seal driver. We'll just get that thing in there. Get it kind of set in there. Spot. Oh my gosh. Jeez. Get in there a little bit more. Ow. Slowly but surely, I think. Like a glove. Boom. New axle seal, new bearing. Now let's try and get the other side apart. You should find great entertainment in my struggle. Okay, so our goal here, you can see in there, is to get that repair bearing assembly out. Now, on the other side, I ended up ripping this bearing apart, ripping the seal apart, ripping that inner seal out. And, you know, it was a difficult process, but we'll see if this side's any easier, goes any smoother now that I have an audience, so we'll see what happens. So here's a slide hammer attachment, and the way it works is you put it into the axle housing this way, and then you get it to flip up, and then you twist this nut tight so that this spacer washer goes flush with that outer seal, and then hopefully it pulls out as an assembly. I just bring that. Okay, and this is called a slide hammer. So you tie that into the axle, into that assembly, and then you hammer it out. So let's try and do that. And what's happening is this puller catches that inner seal, and then when it catches that inner seal, it's not a solid surface, so it just rips the seal out as soon as I start using the slide hammer. That's exactly what happened on the other side, so we'll see what happens on this side. Sometimes I can even feel it tightening this adjustment nut, feel the seal start to come out. Yeah, I'm almost positive it's gonna rip out, but we'll stay optimistic. And then you want to use this, so this is really bad balanced, and just do not cross thread it. I rented this, so trying not to mess it up. Get it in there, all the way bottomed out. And then you want to get this ready and then go straight out. Yep, there goes the bearing. Yep, just ripped it into pieces. So that's awesome. You're gonna have to clean all that out now. That is dirt in the axle shaft, or axle housing. Imagine that. That's what ruins an axle shaft right there. And all you had to do is replace it right the first time. You'd never have these problems down the road. The inner, or the middle, there is the middle shell or guide for the roller bearing. Now that's just pressed in there. So I need to break it loose with a punch and then use my slide hammer against this outer ring to get this repair bearing out. That's how I got the other side out. I'm assuming that's how this side's gonna go. So I'm gonna hammer that out and then reattach the slide hammer and hopefully we'll get it out. Broke that. Get it out of the way. And now I'll have to try and get that slide hammer jammed in there and hopefully get it out. So now that center support or guide is pushed into the back. Forearm workout doing these freaking things. There we go. Now I gotta tap back out and clean up in here. I'll get the new axle bearing and new axle seals in, and we'll be good to go.
Really? Oh, wow.
Well, the rear axle is finally done. I even painted the drums. But we got the new axle shafts in, I got my diff cover on. The only thing I need to get is posi additive and gear oil. It is crunch time for me. There's a huge list to do for the car. I don't even have a drive shaft right now, but there's wiring, and I'm trying to get this car done for the Iola Car Show. It's a few 100-mile trip away from my house, and it's totally crunch time. Less than 30 days, and it's car show time, car cruise time, and I'm really pushing to get the car done by then, but it was a huge milestone to get this axle wrapped up. I hope you enjoyed the video, and remember, find them, fix them, and drive them. Thanks again for watching.